It's the week of Thanksgiving here in the USA, and I'm hearing from a lot of families who are skipping this year for a variety of reasons, but primarily they're just not up to the tension that will be awaiting them. Good for you. I'm so happy that our choices aren't directed by obligation, that we didn't even sign up. There are lots of other ways to connect with family and friends, and so I'm glad you're doing what's best for your family. But for those of you who are going to be with family and friends, I want to help you manage the questions that may be lobbed your way. I can remember feeling so nervous about being put in the hot seat, especially if you're all sitting around the table and they're not being aggressive, but you're not ready to defend your choices yet. The key is to anticipate what's coming. For some of the people in our path, we already know what they're worried about, what they're going to focus on. Maybe their questions are academically driven. How will you make sure they stay on grade level? Or how will they get into college? Or what if there are gaps? Others are more socially focused. How are they going to make friends? Won't they be lonely? What about all the fun they're going to miss? Then there'll be the questions directed at the kids. And sometimes they seem benign, something they've asked kids for generations. But because we've stepped off that conveyor belt, so to speak, our kids might look at them like deer in headlights. They're not used to being quizzed, usually. Your relatives ask, "What grade are you in?" or "What's your favorite subject?" And they seem like simple, innocuous questions. But when your kid can't answer that, and they don't perform well under what seems like minimal pressure, oh, it's another reason to believe something is wrong with them or with you. It's just the confirmation they were worried about or even expecting to see. So, becoming a holiday questioning prepper is what's in order. Just taking a few minutes to think of quick answers that could work. I have podcasts and videos to help you dive deeper into most of these topics. And for Black Friday, you can get all the unschooling guides for nearly 75% off. These all explore specific fears and worries that I've seen or experienced myself. You could get the guides and read them through on your drive over to the holiday get-together. I'm thinking specifically of guides that have to do with socialization or with technology. Maybe the academic guides if you're more worried about reading or writing or math. There's actually 23 guides in the Ultimate Unschooling Guide bundle, so you could have your own unschooling library at your fingertips the minute you need something. That's always been my goal, to get you good, solid information so you can get those fears conquered as soon as they come up. We all have worries, and they change over time as our kids get older. But you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Unschoolers have been discussing solutions for decades, and I've gathered it all together for you so you don't have to waste time searching and sifting yourself. Who has time for that? So you can get all 23 guides for only $99 instead of paying full price at $15 each. You end up saving nearly $250. I bring it up because I don't want you to miss out. Okay, so let's get back to the few questions that you can expect to hear. Let me help you with this. Let's start with helping the kids figure out what grade they'd be in. It's going to be based on their age. Kids start kindergarten at 5, first grade at 6, and just count up from there. I have a chart if you need it. It's over at the website. I'll link to it in the show notes. Or they could say, well, I'm 8th grade for science and history. Math is probably 4th grade. Spelling, don't ask. But reading, more like 6th grade. It's kind of a colorful approach, but may lead to more questions. And sometimes it's just easier to say, I'm in 4th grade, and then go off to play. What's your favorite subject? Doesn't have to get the "we don't do subjects" response, even though you don't. Subjects do weave through every kid activity, really every life activity. So you may just need to have a conversation with the kids about what subjects are sprinkled into the things that they like to do. So let me just walk you through that really quickly. If you watch movies or shows, they could say, I love a good story, so I guess language arts is my favorite. Or maybe you have pets, or you talk about seasonal changes, or you have some health discussions in your home. They could simply say science. Or if they're into gaming or apps, they could say, computer science is my favorite. And if the relative says, but what about language arts or math? The answer can simply be, oh, I do a ton of that. I just like it best when it's technology based. You can even pull others into the conversation and say, I heard all the kids in the school now get their own iPads. That'll open up a conversation. On one of our group coaching calls, one of the members said that she had to face her grandmother at the Thanksgiving table when she asked, so what do you do all day? Arms crossed, not really approving. But she was ready. She jumped right into it. I'm so glad you asked, Nana. And then she proceeded to tell about all the cool experiences that her daughter was able to do, places they had been, activities she was involved with, including their schedule for the week. And the grandma relaxed and nodded with approval. Now, I wouldn't expect a kid to field that kind of a question, but if you plan ahead, you can. You could add something like, I love tapping into the community and finding all the learning that's out there. Or maybe sometimes I think I'm creating an entire curriculum with Netflix and Hulu. And for those who have kids who are big gamers, you might say, well, every day looks a little different, but our main focus is creating a lifestyle that nurtures curiosity and independence. My kid is really into gaming, and it's amazing how much learning happens there. Problem solving, strategy, collaboration with others online, even storytelling and math skills. It's not just entertainment. I'm seeing all kinds of growth and exploration. Maybe you could add, and we balance that with time out in the world. We travel, we explore local events, we dive into activities that spark his interest. I make sure they see what's out in the local community, but it's really about following their natural learning path. And the best thing is seeing how engaged and curious they are, whether they're gaming or building something or asking questions about the world. You could say it's definitely a different approach than what most people are used to. But it works so well for my kid. They're thriving, and I get to see how their skills and confidence grow every day. This kind of response describes how intentional you're being with this unschooling lifestyle. And sometimes the responses you get can be more, wow, this sounds like a lot of work, or I could never do that. And you can always respond with, well, like everything, some days are harder than others. Or you could say, luckily, everybody gets to choose what's best for them. It lets them off the hook, so it doesn't feel like you're judging them, even though they were setting it all up to be judgmental about you, but you dismantled that. I created a quick 2-page PDF for you, a worksheet to help you get prepared for these kinds of gatherings, where you think about the question and you write down some of the responses you could use. I'll link to it in the show notes below and at the blog where you're going to be able to find the transcript for this. I've even included several quick answers that you could give, so that might help too. A couple things to remember. If you're really nervous, reach out to a couple other family members and tell them that you may need them to help you run interference. Or ask if they'll help change the subject so you and your family cannot feel so interrogated. Sometimes people don't realize that you may not feel ready to explain yourself in a group setting. If you're going to a gathering at your spouse's family's, be sure to talk to them ahead of time about how you're going to handle it. Remember, if your child messes up, don't humiliate them to prove to everyone you're on top of it all. Sometimes we panic, we feel judged. And if you think about what could happen ahead of time, you'll be ready for it if and when it does. Your child still needs you to be an advocate for them. And that's why it's important to work through these things before you're in the thick of it. Whether your holidays start now or as we're flipping the calendar over to the next month, you can prepare yourself for the questions that you know are going to pop up. I have a few other podcasts you can listen to. I'll link to those. And don't forget about that free PDF that I made for you. And Black Friday. Unschoolers get special deals too. So there's big discounts for joining the membership group because sometimes you really need someone to be in your corner, and the incredible deal on all the guides. I'll put the links for these too. You can do this. It just takes knowledge and support and maybe a little action on your part. But I'm walking along with you, holding your hand. You don't have to figure this out all on your own. So happy holidays, happy unschooling, and reach out if you need more support or resources. We'll talk to you again soon.